What if I told you you could book a destination wedding in Mexico where every restaurant, every pool, every staff member was devoted to you and your guests? No awkward interactions with strangers, just your people celebrating you. That's a resort buyout, and it's more accessible than most people realize when planning a destination wedding. So stick with me, let's talk through it. If we don't know each other yet, my name is Becky from the blog travelagentbecky.com, and I specialize in destination weddings that happen in Mexico, specifically in the Cancun Riviera Maya area, but all through Mexico. Today, we're talking about one of my favorite options for destination weddings, and that's the resort buyout. I'm going to cover what that actually means, how you go about doing it, and which four properties are my favorite to work with as a specialist in this area. Of course, there are other properties that we can absolutely look at, larger and smaller than even what I'm showing. I would just call these options more popular for a variety of reasons. A resort buyout can sometimes be referred to as a full resort buyout, or sometimes you even hear a partial resort buyout. But essentially what you're doing is booking every single room, and then the resort has to close down to outside guests. You would have a separate contract for a full resort buyout because they need your commitment. If they're sending guests or outside guests away, they need your commitment that you're going to actually follow through. This contract will look different than a standard room block contract. It will be much more strict and will require you to come up with serious cash to put down. With that though, you get some really amazing things. Number one on the list, privacy. If you really don't want to be sharing the resort with other guests, privacy might be really high on your list, and a resort buyout, full or partial, really could be worth it for you. Number two is the cohesion. Keeping all of your guests together in one spot instead of spread out across a 600 room large property really means that you are spending that time there with your guests, which was the intention of the destination wedding anyway. Number three, and maybe this should have been number two, I went back and forth, but the flexibility you get. And I don't mean flexibility within the contract, that's really strict. I mean flexibility with when you do things. The resort will be yours essentially. So your wedding is when you're ready, not when the wedding planner is pushing you. And again, if you're choosing one of these options, they're all inclusive. So your guests still get that all inclusive feel. They don't have to worry about anything. A few things to know before we jump into my specific favorite properties about resort buyouts. Firstly, you still have to have a wedding package. So if you are working with a property that we're mentioning here, you will have the resort buyout. That's just the group space. You still need a full wedding package. Secondly, you will be required to pay to fill the resort, whether you actually have those bodies attending or not. The smaller boutique properties are easier to accomplish that with 36 rooms. But if you're looking at a larger property with over 100 rooms, that may be harder to accomplish. Another thing to consider about a resort buyout is the contract. I have seen them vary drastically, even from the same property. So the season, the length of stay, the dates you want, if they're falling over spring breaks or special holidays or weekends, those are going to change your contracts drastically. If you're considering a resort buyout, I really encourage you to find a travel agent that specializes in resort buyouts. These contracts are very strict. You're going to have deposit structures and payment timelines. You have to negotiate vendor access. There's a lot of things moving in one of these resort buyout contracts, and I really recommend you talk to someone who can help you. Okay, let's talk about one of my favorite resorts to do a full resort buyout. The Beachfront by the Fives Hotel in Riviera Maya. If you start looking up the Fives, you're going to find that there are several resorts and hotels in this brand with very similar names. Very specifically, we are looking at the Beachfront by the Fives. Normally, this is an adults-only property that only has 38 rooms. And because it's near the Fives, you do get access to some of those amenities. However, if you are doing a full resort buyout, you can have children there, but it's important to note there's nothing there for them because it's designed to be adults only. So families might need multiple rooms. There's not a lot of bedding differences there, but all the pools, the whole beach space, it becomes yours. The staff becomes yours, and you get a really intimate and very cool experience. Another one of my favorite resorts for a full resort buyout is Unico 2105. There is a different Unico in the Riviera Maya, but this one we're going over to the West Coast. Unico 2105 is in Riviera Nayarit, which is definitely not typically where I specialize, but because I specialize in Unico properties, this one was an easy add for me and I absolutely love it. This is just 20 minutes away from the airport in Puerto Vallarta and only recently opened in July of 2025. So if you've only really been considering the Mexican Caribbean side, I'd encourage you to also open up to the Mexican Pacific side because the sunsets here are so gold. Unico 2105 has just under 150 rooms, so we're looking at larger weddings. However, even if you may not be able to fill all of those rooms, it may be worth looking at because this property is so new. A full resort buyout might be more affordable than you thought. You also might find more availability here than at some other properties. Again, because it's new, folks haven't necessarily been ready to send their weddings there. But if you're willing to give it a shot, I really, really love this property. It's absolutely stunning. I think it's worth looking at. Okay, staying on the West Coast, another option for a full resort buyout. If you love that kind of hacienda feel, then let's take a look at this property. Zoetry Casa del Mar. This property has just over 60 rooms and suites combined, which puts it really nicely in the 100 to 120 guests area. One really important thing to note though, if you're not super familiar with Cabo, it's not on a swimmable beach. The waves here are really intense. So the pool game is very strong. You will have beach access. It's actually a really stunning stretch of beach, but we recommend you not go in the water here in Cabo. You do, however, have incredible pools, incredible views. Again, because this has 60 rooms, I really like this for your 100-ish guest count. Okay, I think I saved my favorite for last. I don't know if I can say it's my favorite. I saved a really unique one for last. We're going back to the east coast of Mexico. The Zoetry Villa Rolandi is maybe one of the most interesting options for a full resort buyout. It's situated on a little peninsula on Isla Mujeres. And if you're not super familiar with Isla Mujeres, it is a small island just off the coast of Cancun. So when your guests land at Cancun International Airport, we have them transferred over to the marina where a private yacht delivers them to the resort. Yep, a private yacht. This property is maybe one of my favorites to work with for full resort buyouts. It has 35 rooms and suites, which means it is really attainable even for wedding parties under 100 guests. Again, like a lot of these other properties, it was built to be adults only. And so there aren't water slides or other child amenities here. However, if you do a full resort buyout, you can have kids. You've got a little stretch of beach that's absolutely stunning. You've got wonderful pools, and you've got the run of the place. Villa Rolandi has unfortunately been closed for renovations. However, this might work in your favor because once it reopens, not only will it be absolutely stunning, but it might have some really incredible rates. So if you're looking at end of 2027 or even into 2028 for a full resort buyout, this might want to jump to the top of your list, especially if you plan on having under 100 guests, where you could definitely fit into 35 rooms. Make sure you reach out to me ASAP if this is something you want to know about, because when this reopens, I really think it's going to have a ton of interest. Okay, so real talk about a full resort buyout for a destination wedding. It is lovely to dream about, but it is not a reality for everyone, and I will speak openly and honestly about that. I find it works best when your guest list is small enough to fill some of these smaller boutique properties, ones with 35 rooms, ones with 60 rooms. When you're looking at rooms or hotels that have over 100 rooms to fill, you have to have one, either very great rates, or two, a really large wedding. And both of those things might be feasible to you. But having some of these smaller options means it opens up the full resort buyout to a lot more people. If you're not sure what a full resort buyout would look like for you, how much money you'd have to have up front, what's typical, I'm happy to walk you through some of these when we do a full consultation. So if you schedule a call, we talk about whether or not I'm the right fit for you. And then if you choose to hire me, we start pulling contracts and start asking for some of these full resort buyouts and going through them to decide, is this the right option for you? Keep in mind though, this is not the cheapest option, and you certainly will have to put a lot of cash forward in order to guarantee the resort that you will fill those rooms. If any of these resorts or the idea of a full resort buyout really sparked something with you and you want to chat, please make sure you find all of my contact information in the description box below. My consultations are always complimentary, and from there, if we decide to work together, we can deep dive into the concept of a full resort buyout and start pulling contracts for some of these places to see, are they the right fit for you. I will also be in the comment section answering questions that you might have about these properties or others. So make sure you put your questions down there, and I'll see you in the next one.